Welcome to CrimeSceneX. Today's video is about war horror stories. If these stories scare you to your core, show us some love with a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more videos every single day. Now get comfortable and brace yourself for a journey into the heart of darkness. Enjoy the video. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a blood-red glow across the sky, we knew we were in for a night unlike any other. I was part of a 6-man reconnaissance team, deep in enemy territory. The mission was straightforward: scout the area, report on enemy movements, and get out without being seen. We moved in silence, communicating with hand signals, our boots sinking softly into the mud. The atmosphere was thick with the stench of decay, a grim reminder of the war that had scarred the land. We had all heard the stories of this place. Tales of battles so fierce the earth itself seemed to cry out in anguish. Tales of soldiers who went missing, never to be found. Our objective was a small village, rumored to be an enemy supply hub. As we approached, the first thing that struck me was the silence. No chatter, no movement, nothing. It was as if the village had been swallowed by the night itself. We split up, each of us taking a section to recon. I found myself alone, moving between the shadows of the dilapidated houses, my rifle gripped tightly in my hands. That's when I heard it, the soft clink of metal. I froze, every nerve in my body on edge. It sounded again, closer this time, the unmistakable sound of a weapon being readied. I signaled to my team, but there was no response. Silence had reclaimed the village. I moved forward, my heart pounding in my chest. The source of the sound was an old rusted tank, abandoned in a small clearing. As I approached, the hatch creaked open, and a figure emerged. Not an enemy soldier, but one of our own, his uniform dirty, his eyes wild with an unspeakable terror. He spoke in a hoarse whisper, telling of his unit's ambush, of how he had been trapped in that metal coffin for days, listening to the screams of his comrades as they were hunted down one by one. His story was cut short by a sharp crack, a sniper. My instincts kicked in, and I dragged the traumatized soldier back to the cover of the forest. We were being hunted, not by ghosts or supernatural forces, but by something far more terrifying. The enemy was using this village as a trap, baiting soldiers with the allure of an easy target. We regrouped, our numbers now 5. The village had claimed one of us, snatched away into the darkness without a trace. We knew we had to leave, to escape this place that seemed cursed by the horrors of war. But as we made our way back through the forest, the real nightmare began. Flares erupted in the night sky, bathing the woods in a hellish light. Shadows twisted and danced around us as bullets whizzed by, each one a deadly specter seeking flesh. We ran, dodging from tree to tree, but the forest was alive with the enemy, blending with the rustling leaves. What followed was a blur, a desperate struggle for survival, the guttural cries of my comrades, the unrelenting assault of an unseen foe. By the time the dawn broke, revealing the carnage of the night, I was alone. I stumbled out of that cursed forest, carrying with me the scars of a night of terror. I never found out what happened to my team. The official report said we encountered a superior force and were overwhelmed. We were outplayed, lured into a nightmare by an enemy that used the very soil we fought over as a weapon against us. This war was not just a battle of nations. It was a battle against the darkness that resides in the hearts of men, a darkness that could consume us all. And as I write this, I can't help but wonder if part of me is still out there, lost in the woods, trapped in a never-ending horror story. I remember the day it happened, as if the memory itself is seared into my very soul. My unit had been deployed to a remote area, the kind of place where the map fades into a vague, here be dragons territory. Our mission was simple reconnaissance, gather intel and get out without making a splash. But what we found in that forsaken place went beyond the scope of any briefing. The evening was drawing in as we reached an abandoned village. It was supposed to be a ghost town. They were the remnants of war-shattered windows, bullet-riddled walls, and the eerie silence of a place that had witnessed unspeakable things. My squad split up to cover more ground. I was paired with Corporal Reynolds, a guy who'd seen more action than the rest of us put together. Our sector was the northern part of the village, where the houses were more ruins than structures. We hadn't gone far when Reynolds froze. "Do you smell that?" he whispered. It was the stench of decay, heavy and pungent. We followed the scent to a cellar, hidden beneath the ruins of what must have been a quaint home once. Reynolds signaled for me to stay back as he went in. Moments later, he emerged, face pale, a ghost of his usual self. "They're down there," he choked out. "Our boys." Soldiers from our side, left in an unmarked grave, discarded like refuse. We radioed it in, the silence of our comrades on the other end speaking volumes. Night fell like a curtain, and that's when the silence broke. Gunfire erupted, not from one direction but all around us. We were surrounded, the enemy hidden in the very shadows of the village. It was an ambush. We ran, zigzagging through the derelict houses, the air thick with the sounds of battle, the rat-tat-tat of gunfire, the zip of bullets cutting the air, the thud of boots on the ground. But it was the silence that followed each burst that was truly terrifying. The waiting, the knowing that with each passing second, the enemy was closing in. In that chaos, I lost Reynolds. I found myself utterly alone, crouching behind what was left of a wall, trying to make myself as small as possible. My radio was dead, my unit was scattered or worse, and the enemy was playing a game of cat and mouse with me as the prize. The hours crept by, each second a lifetime, each noise a potential end. I didn't dare move. I didn't dare breathe. When dawn finally broke, the silence was complete. I made my way out of that village with the sun rising at my back, stepping over the reminders of the night's horror. The enemy had gone, melting away with the shadows they had used as cover, but they left their mark on me, on my soul. I reached our rendezvous point, but I was the only one. The village had taken the rest, swallowed them up in its night of terror. I reported what happened, but my words felt hollow. How could they understand? How could anyone? We went back to that village in the daylight, a whole platoon of us, but there were no signs of the enemy, no signs of my squad, just the dead in the cellar, and the memory of a night where war itself had turned into a living, breathing horror. And as I sit here, safe from the battlefield, I know that part of me never left that village. It remains there, a silent witness to the night when the war showed me its true face. Not a noble endeavor, but a horror story where the monsters are all too human. It was supposed to be just another patrol, you know. Just walk through the abandoned town, check for any signs of the enemy, and report back. Simple. At least that's what we thought when we stepped into the silent streets of that old, war-torn town with our guns ready. The houses were like skeletons, windows blown out, and doors hanging off hinges. We were a squad of 6, just a bunch of guys trying to get by. I remember joking around to break the tension as we entered the town at dusk. But our laughter died pretty quick once we saw the first signs that something was off. We found a backpack in the middle of the street. It was just like ours, military issued, and it was torn open, stuff spilled out like someone had been looking for something, or running from something. We called out, thinking maybe someone from our side was here, but the only answer we got was our own echoes bouncing off the broken buildings. Our leader, Sergeant Lee, he told us to keep moving, but we all felt it, that prickly feeling on the back of your neck like we were being watched. The streets twisted like a maze, and the shadows seemed to move with us. It was getting dark real fast, and that's when things went south. We heard it first, the sound of someone crying. It was faint, a whimpering that made your heart want to stop. We followed it, found ourselves outside a school, the windows boarded up, the playground overgrown with weeds. The crying was coming from inside. Sergeant Lee signaled 2 of us to stay outside, watch the exits, while the rest of us went in. The inside of that school, man, it was messed up. Desks overturned, papers scattered everywhere, and that crying sound was louder now, echoing in the empty halls. We found the source in the gym. It was a soldier, but he was messed up. Uniform torn, eyes wild. He was clutching his rifle so tight his knuckles were white. He kept saying they were here, that they were all around us. But when we asked who, he just started screaming so loud it hurt. That's when the shooting started outside. We ran back, thinking we were under attack. But when we got to the entrance, it was just chaos. One of our guys outside, he was firing into the street, yelling about shadows moving, but there was nothing there. Nothing we could see anyway. Sergeant Lee, he got us out of there, ordered us to fall back. We didn't need to be told twice. We booked it, left that town and the crazy behind us. But even when we got back, Even when they told us it was probably just stress or the enemy messing with us, I couldn't shake the feeling. Because here's the thing. When we were running out, I looked back. Just once. And in the windows of the school, I swear I saw faces. Not like ghost faces or anything, just people watching us leave. And I heard it too, right before we turned the corner. Not crying this time, but laughing. Quiet, like it was being kept secret. I don't know what happened in that town, what happened to that soldier, or who those faces belonged to. But I do know one thing. War isn't just about fighting the guy in front of you. It's also about the things you can't see, the things you can't explain, that stick with you long after. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, comment what you thought, and subscribe for daily uploads.